So, good morning, everyone. Good morning, sir. Good morning, classmates. I'm here to report the revised Fisheries Administrative Order number 60. Subject: Regulations governing the issuance of fish pond permits and or leases on public forest lands. Pursuant to the provision of Section 79 of Act number 2711, the revised Administrative Code, and Section 4, 63, and 64 of Act number 4003, Fisheries Act as amended, and Section 4 of Republic Act number 177, the following rules and regulations governing the granting of fish pond permits and leases for certain tracts of public forest lands are hereby promulgated. Words and terms defined. Section 1, ang mga definition ni, unsay mga meaning aning mga permit ana. Definition: in applying the provision of the administrative order, the words and terms herein used shall be construed as follow. Permit refers to a yearly fish pond permit. Lease refers to a lease agreement or contract. So, kontrata na ay kontrata. Forest lands are synonymous with timberlands and vacant public lands, not declared alienable and disposable under the provision of the Public Land Law. Timberlands, as defined in Act number 2874, embrace all public forest lands coming under the preventive and permanent jurisdiction of the Bureau of Forestry and classified for administrative purposes as within the forest zone and other special forest reserves. Timberlands surveyed or not surveyed in accordance with the Bureau of Land Standard shall, after their proclamation as forest reserves, be designated as such. Public purposes include any purpose declared by the proper authorities to be for public purposes. Letter G. Person. So the plural or singular as the case demands include natural person, individuals, or corporations. Individuals include association or partnership. Permanent improvements include those which are permanently annexed to the land under permit or lease in such a manner that they cannot be separated therefrom without causing damage there. Letter J. Temporary improvements refer to those which can be removed without causing damage to or diminish the usefulness of the land under lease and to which the same have been attached. Unoccupied refers to an area which is not reserved for public purposes and or which is not occupied by any person or is occupied by a person who is being disqualified to occupy or use it, refuses or fails to exercise his preferential right. Fish pond means an artificially constructed pond for raising fish. So, anak ta magbuhi from fry of any species and stage to marketable size or a natural pond where fishes are impounded for similar purposes. Fisheries refers to the catching, taking, handling, marketing, and preserving of fish or other aquatic products, the fishing grounds and the right of the fish, and to take products therefrom. Secretary. Unless otherwise specified, Secretary refers to the Secretary of Agriculture and Natural Resources. Ang director, unless otherwise specified, it refers to the Director of Fisheries. Authorized representative include district fishery officers, fish pond investigators, inspectors, fishery agents, and other officials of employees of the Bureau of Fisheries or of the Office of the Secretary designated by the Director or the Secretary as the case may be. So, permits and lesses. Section 2. Use of forest lands. No person shall occupy or use any portion of the public forest lands, including tidal, mangrove, and other swamps, ponds, and streams within public forest and lands or proclaimed timberlands or established forest reserves for fish pond purposes without first securing therefore a permit of less in accordance with the provision of this order. Sa section 2, so walay bisan kinsa ang makagamit sa mga public forest lands, include na ang mga mangrove and others, kanang mga seawool bitaw. Kung sa fish pond nga purpose, like magbuhat og fish pond, dapat na ay permit or agreement, kontrata na pwede nila magamit ang maong luna or lugar. So, section 3, permit or less. A. Permit. A permit for a tract of public forest land and exceeding 10 hectares for a term not exceeding 1 tenure may be issued by the director for an area of more than 10 hectares. A permit may be issued by the director with the approval of the secretary. So, sa permit, kung 10 hectares ra, ang mo-issue sa permit kay ang director. If more than 10 hectares, ang mo-issue ana kay ang director, then dapat na ay approval sa secretary. Then, lease agreement. A lease agreement or contract for a period not exceeding 10 years may granted by the secretary upon recommendation of the director to a permittee who has introduced improvements on the area equivalent to 1/5 of the total amount needed to complete the improvements of the area on the basis of 500 pesos per hectare. Kung dili mo lapas og 10 years ang kontrata, is ang secretary maoy mo guarantee. Unya, 500 pesos ang per hectare. Gracious permit. The Commissioner of Fisheries shall have the power to issue a gracious permit or less for a fish pond area nor exceeding 10 hectares for a period of 1 year. Renewable person of good repute who is qualified under this order for scientific and educational purposes as amended by File 6020. So, ang kana renewable, ma-renew every year. But dili mo exceed of 50 years. Any branch sa government. Area that may be guaranteed. Any Section 4, area that may be guaranteed. Any person qualified under the law and the provision of the order to acquire public forest lands for fish pond purposes may be granted a permit or less covering an area not exceeding 50 hectares, subject to the exception herein provided for. 4. A person who is actually a holder of a permit or less covering An area as provided herein shall be preclude from acquiring any right or interest in other permit or less issued or guaranteed to any corporation, association, or partnership, even if his interest is that to a stockholder or member. So, any person qualified na maka-acquire sa maong public forest lands for fish pond purposes. Magaranti sa og permit or kontrata kung ang area not exceeding 50 hectares. B. A husband and wife living together shall not hold under individual or separate permits or leases an aggregate area exceeding 50 hectares, subject to the exception herein provided. 4. So, if ang bana ug asawa living together, nag-ipon, dili sila pwede kanang kuha og permit or makakontrata nga kanang tagsa-tagsa sila bitaw. A husband and wife who are living separately by virtue of a degree of legal separation guaranteed under the Civil Code of the Philippines may each apply for a permit or less covering an area of not more than 50 hectares. So kung ang bana og asawa nagbuwag jud og legal nang naazoy legal na ng papel bitaw nga pagkabuwaga, pwede sila maka-apply sa maong permit or less pero dili mulapas og more than 50 hectares. A corporation duly registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission and authorized by law to transact business in the Philippines may be granted a permit or less covering an area not exceeding 400 hectares subject to the exception herein provided however that if the total area covered by the permits or lesses of the member of stockholder is less than 400 hectares, the permit or less that may be guaranteed to said corporation shall be only for the area necessary to complete the maximum area allowed to such corporation, including the aggregate area held under permits or lesses by the members of stockholders. So D. The provisions of the preceding paragraphs A, B, and C, notwithstanding the Secretary may in his discretion decrease or increase the area that may be guaranteed for reason public interest taking into consideration number 1, the financial capacity and or qualification of the applicant. Dapat na kay kwarta jud kung qualified ba ka nga aplikante. Number 2, the importance of the project or industry for which the area is applied. Kung kana imong area nga imong gamiton, dapat na ay purpose sa maong industry. Number 3, the existence of numerous application, permits, or lesses in the place where the area applied for is located, as amended by PAW number 61. So, Section 5. When permit may be issued, a permit may be issued only after an application, therefore, has been duly filed, and the area applied for has been certified by the Director of Forestry as available for fish pond purposes. The applicant has paid the required rental and deposited the corresponding bond. Ang permit nga gi-issued magamit na after sa pag-apply. And kanang aplikante dapat nakabayad na sa maong rental nya naka-deposited na sa maong corresponding bond. There is reasonable evidence that said applicant has initial capital in cash. Unya ang aplikante dapat na initial cash nga ipakita to develop and to improve at least 1/5 of the area applied for within the period prescribed by the order. So dapat nakaipakita nga kwarta cash nga mapalambo nimo at least 1/5 within the period. Unya, in the absence of the initial capital in cash, the applicant has assets or properties from which may be derived from initial capital mentioned or certification or evidence of approved loans from authorized lending institutions like kay financing companies, in addition kay bank deposits. Otherwise, kung wala ka the application shall be rejected. Unya dapat lagi ang aplikante ay mga katigayunan, ari-arian, or insurances, financing companies. Kung wala kay sapat na kapital, reject. Dili ka makakuan adto nga mao nga permit. Di ka ma-issuehan adto nga permit. So, section 6. When less may be guaranteed, a less may be guaranteed upon application, therefore, and after compliance with the requirements of subsection B of section 3 of this order. So, section 7. Rights and obligation of permittee or less. So, mga right na ni sa maong kuan, mga mukuha og permit or mga kananging kuan sa kontrata. Unless otherwise specified, the permit or less shall be conferred upon the holder thereof only the right to use for a certain stated period of time the definite tract or tracts of public forest lands described in the permit or less, exclusively for the purpose therein stated and under the terms and condition wherein contained. The permittee is under obligation to introduce improvements to the area covered by the permit in the following manner. At least 1/5 of the area covered by such permit shall be developed within 2 years from the issuance of the original permit. Dapat mapalambo, ma-develop within 2 years sa pagkuha nimo sa maong permit. And the remaining portion shall be completely and fully developed within 5 years, also from the issuance of the original permit. The lease shall fully and completely develop the remaining 4/5 of the area covered by lease within a period of 5 years from the issuance of the original permit. Fully na develop. Portion or portions of the area under the permit or less not developed within 5 years from the issuance, the original permit shall be segregated and made available to other qualified applicants. Kung dili nimo mapalambo sa 5 ka tuig imong kuan, so ma-available na sa uban nga aplikante ug na imo kuan mangganing moapas. So, application. Section 9. Form and contents of application. All application for permit or less shall be submitted on a form prescribed. Therefore, in case the applicant is a corporation, association, or partnership, the application shall be accompanied by documents consisting of the articles of incorporation or partnership, bylaws, and certificate of registration and such other documents showing that applicant is qualified under this order. So, mga form and contents of application, mga ipangpasa nimo nga mga documents or contents. Section 10. Place and filing an application shall be filed with the office of the director. Dapat ang maong application naka-filed sa office of the director. Section 11. Fee to accompany application for permit. An application for a permit must be accompanied by an application fee of 5 pesos, either in cash or postal money. Order payable to the director. This application fee is not refundable. So, ang fee is 5 pesos, then walay refund. This is refundable. Sa Section 12, when application is considered filed, an application shall be considered filed on the date the original thereof was actually received in the office of the director, which date must be stamped on the face of the application and not on the date when it was prepared or mailed. So, ang maong application nila, dapat ang date nakabutang is kung kanusa na-receive sa office of the director, dili kung kanusa gi-prepare. Okay? Maura to. Daghang salamat. Narataman ahong part na i-report. So, next, nasa Hong Kong reporters. Thank you. God bless.